Gordon's up next. He says, hey guys, if you're building a multi-city local business niche WordPress site using categories or silos, but instead just creating a separate page for each city and keyword combination while adding posts with relevant keyword and city location content for each city/keyword combination with a backlink to the related city keyword page, boost the SEO ranking juice for those pages, or will it confuse Google and take the SEO focus off the related pages? As always, your help is very much appreciated. Okay, this is no, it depends on what your supporting posts are optimized for, because you can cannibalize your top level page, right? So in other words, if you're setting up a separate, let's say if you're going to use, like if you have a flat site, right? Or what I mean is, let's put it this way. If you have like, if you're setting up a site where you don't have necessarily like topical silos and in location silos that are trying to be, subcategories of the topical silos, or the service silos would be another term for it. Whereas let's put it this way, like let's say for using a tree service for an example, I don't really technically need to have service-based silos for a tree service company, because Google considers tree service, tree removal, tree trimming, tree cutting, all synonymous. They're all kind of on the same level. So if I wanted to, and I started doing this one of my multi-location lead gen sites, is I've kind of switched from the silo structure that I had been using for the last several years to kind of more of a flat site structure, in that the city plus service plus city pages are really top level category pages. So in other words, each service plus city page is a top level category, right? With the more complex structures, typically I've talked about this many times, but I like to use categories for the topical silos or the service silos. And then I like to use tag silos for the location-based silos. But I've been testing for the last couple of months with one of my multi-location lead gen sites, where I converted it to city plus or service plus city location pages, which are basically location landing pages that are the top. Essentially, they become their own silo, right? So that becomes the top of silo page. And then from there, yeah, you can because then you can select that location category, right, as your top of silo, and then place supporting articles, publish supporting articles under that, right? So you select that category, and then you can create depth to that silo. So, in that case, you just got to be careful about what type of content you're publishing. You can, for example, on a service plus city type landing page, you're typically going to want to list, at least descriptions or summaries of all the different services that company provides from that location or for that location. Does that make sense? So then supporting articles or posts so adding depth to that silo, a great strategy there would be to take out one, highlight one particular service for each blog post, right? So in other words, you create a blog post that is highlighting and expanding upon one particular service that's mentioned in the overall top level silo page, but it's not competing with that page because it's just reinforcing it. And also internal linking structure is incredibly important when you're doing that. Something else you could do is geo post, like what, what is it? Brian Willey teaches a lot about, he called them geo posts, but doing geographically relevant posts or location-based posts that are, optimized for neighborhoods or towns, things like that, that would also be placed as child posts or supporting posts within that silo. Does that make sense? And once again, very important that you understand internal linking structure for all of that, so that you don't, number one, cannibalize your top level page, and number two, that you're making sure that the bot is flowing through all that content in a very particular way. Obviously, you can't cover that here, but it is covered in the Heavy Hitter Club for sure, and also in the Mastermind. So I hopefully that answered your question. But I wouldn't, you just gotta make sure that you're not repeating the same information multiple times in multiple blog posts, because then, and also your SEO titles, your page titles, all those kind of things, you got to make sure that they're unique enough to where they're not cannibalizing the top level category page, which is what that's usually what you want to rank, because that's usually what's going to produce leads, if that makes sense. So Marco, that was my explanation. Do you want to?
Yeah, we tested. No, we tested this in Land Solutions Network, city plus keyword combinations, and so there's I think 19,000 something cities in the United States. And let's say you're doing 10 keywords. Well, now you're dealing with nearly 200,000 pages. How do you make those unique enough? And this is the key. How do you make those pages unique enough so that they don't compete one with the other, what you're referring to as cannibalization? And how do you keep them in the active index? Because if Google finds too much similarity, they're just not going to display them to anyone. And then you just did all that work for literally nothing, because Google won't bother indexing your pages. We went from 15,000 pages in the Land Solutions Network to 1,000 something. We're still getting leads. We're still getting traffic. It still ranks really well for targeted keywords, but it's really difficult to keep those pages, those 15,000 pages or so, in the active. It's not that they're de-indexed in a bad way. It's just that Google doesn't find them different enough or good enough to display to anyone. And that stands to reason, because we're not giving Google a reason. I mean, it's just logical for this to happen. What we have to do is go and if that's even a word, uniquify each page to give Google a reason to come back in and re-index and put those pages in the active index once again.
And you know one really good way to uniquify pages?
What's that?
Schema.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Schema. So there's some pretty cool things I'm going to be testing with Rob's schema method for the Magic Page sites that I'm going to be building with the Build with Bradley group. I'm going to be implementing Rob's awesome fucking schema stuff into those sites, and I think that's going to be the killer for that. So, but yeah, because you can, I mean, the pages can look similar to us, but then the bot sees entirely unique stuff.
Yes.
So there's a lot of really cool stuff that I think can be done with the Magic Pages with Rob's schema applied to it. So looking forward to that. Okay, moving on. Hopefully that was helpful, Gordon. Man, Gordon, you need to come just join the damn mastermind.
It's time,
man.
It's
Jesus. It's about time, man.
Yeah, and he's only getting parts of it here. He's never going to get the whole picture from just the free. Come join the heavy hitter, the Semantic Mastery Mastermind, and take your agency and your project, whatever it is that you're doing, and get the results that you really expect to get. I mean, that you can set your expectations and your bar really high, and then you're going to actually outperform your expectations.